Welcome to Southwold, and I know I say this a lot, but this really is truly one of my favourite places. I've been coming here for years, and it never loses its charm. And before us, you can see the magnificently restored Southwold pier. The original pier was built in 1900, but after 80 years of onslaughts of winter weather, storms and the North Sea, and also a mine explosion in the Second World War, the pier had seen better days. Chris Airedale bought the pier in 1987 and spent some time renovating it, and there were additions made some years later, added to the length of the pier and the attractions. The pier is home to several shops, cafes, restaurants, amusement arcades, and since 2001 has been host to the famous Under the Pier show, which is an arcade with a range of machines and games designed by Tim Hunking. You will see before us a mural of George Orwell, who has very strong connections with Southwold. George Orwell's parents lived here near the what is now the fish and chip shop at the far end of the high street. And after a serious bout of illness, he returned back to Southwold on his mother's insistence in order to recuperate and recover. And whilst he was back in Southwold, I believe he spent some time writing A Clergyman's Daughter. We'll spend the next few minutes just filming, looking at the delights of Southwold Pier. And what a delight it is. I do love English seaside piers. You know, I'm a big fan of Cromer and other piers that you see up and down the coast. And it really is that uniquely British seaside feel that you get from exploring a pier. Many, predictably, understandably, have gone into disrepair, one being the Felixstowe Pier, very close to where I live. It's been renovated in parts, but the pier is not what it was. But it's an absolute joy and delight to see Southwold Pier and to see someone investing in it and investing in the attractions and the traditions of an English seaside pier. In the future, we'll try and get over to Cromer, delightful seaside town in North Norfolk, and film the pier there. Some of you are big Alan Partridge fans might know that it was the scene for the final shots in Out the Pupper. It's got a magnificent theatre at the end of the pier, and it's really well worth a visit. We'll definitely try and get over there at some stage in the future, and maybe visit other piers as well. We can see some of the very famous Southwold pier plaques, which have a number of different messages for past loved ones, anniversaries, etc. And that always adds to the interest of coming to the pier itself. Lots of people love looking at the messages here. We're now looking back at Southwold, and you can see a wonderful reflection of the sun against the backdrop of some dark clouds with the sea and the famous lighthouse. It's not difficult to see why Southwold has been an inspiration for so much writing and for films over the years. And as the video goes on, we'll try and mention some of those books, some of the literary work that's been done here, and been inspired by the magnificent coastline here and the magnificent town of Southwold. My own personal favourite is Michael Palin's East of Ipswich, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about that towards the end of the vlog. We're now walking on the promenade, and you can see the wonderful beach huts here, which probably cost an arm and a leg, and you're very lucky if you own one. And I'm extremely jealous and envious of all the people who have a beach hut here. It really has become quite a scene and quite a status symbol even over the years, having and owning a beach hut in Southwold. As I said, I would imagine the cost of one must run into six figures. We're now getting closer to the magnificent lighthouse, and we'll just walk through some of these back streets of Southwold, which are a delight. The famous lighthouse was commissioned in 1890 and automated and electrified in 1938. It really stands as a symbol of Southwold. It's been featured in much artwork and is a Grade 2 listed building. The dimensions are, it's 102 feet tall, or 31 metres if you prefer, and it's something like 121 feet above sea level. And it has 113 steps around a spiral staircase to the top. Today it operates a 150 watt lamp with a range of 24 nautical miles. And one of my favourite places in Southwold has now come into view. I don't want to about it too much, but I'll just say it's the wonderful Soul Bay Inn. I might be visiting, I will be visiting there later, and I'd recommend it as a very decent place to eat and drink if you like that sort of thing. I've had many happy hours in this place, but I'll leave it at that. If you've watched the previous vlogs when I've eulogised about pubs in Borough Market and other places, I don't want the viewers thinking that I spend too much time in these sort of places. We can also see Sweeties, 1 St James Green, which is an old-fashioned sweet shop with sweets in jars, all sorts of different wonderful concoctions. It's not something I really go in for myself, but I'm glad it's here, and I know a lot of people who buy from this shop. I believe you can get your assortment of bonbons, jelly babies, pear drops, rosy apples, Turkish delights and other wonderful sweets in there. Personally, I prefer a slab of 90% dark chocolate, but that's just my preference. What we see before us is Adnams Brewery. I'm desperately trying to stop using the words magnificent and amazing and magnificent. My command of the English language is not that great. I can't really find many other adjectives, so apologies if that annoys the viewer, but it's just my own personal limitations, I'm afraid. So with that limitation, this is the magnificent and wonderful Adnams Brewery that we see before. I'm just zoning in for some other shots and further shots of the lighthouse, the amazing, magnificent lighthouse. I'm a mathematician and actuary by profession. I'm not really a wordsmith, and I do struggle with my vocabulary doing these videos. It's not something that really comes very easily to me. So again, please bear with me. The history of brewing in Southwold goes back to 1345. There is a record of beer being brewed here. The alewife Johanna de Corby and 17 others were charged by the manorial court for serving illegal measures. Also, I must mention the year 1672. Southwold was the headquarters of the English fleet under the command of the Duke of York, and witnessed the huge battle of Solvay, where the French and the British were on one side against the Dutch, and this has inspired local pub names. And of course, anybody who's familiar with Adnams brewery will know the famous broadside. In 1872, George and Ernest Adams purchased the Solvay brewery from William Crisp. In 1890, Adnams & Co was established and has remained independent ever since. We're now moving in the direction of St Edmund's Church. My wife is with me today, and she's getting withdrawal symptoms from seeing the graveyard. Now, St Edmund's Church is a Grade 1 listed building and was built in the mid-15th century, replacing a smaller 13th century church that was destroyed by fire. Many of these churches up and down the country seem to have gone through a similar fate at some stage in their history. Wife has taken control of the camera, so the camera work will improve considerably. We'll spend the next few minutes looking over gravestones and tombs, so I hope you enjoy. In previous vlogs we've been fairly partial to graveyards and cemeteries. We have covered one of the Magnificent Seven, one of my favourite vlogs, West Norwood Cemetery, and we've covered Brockley Cemetery in South East London also, and some of the church, the graveyard church in Lebanon. At present, my wife with a friend is ticking off the Magnificent Seven. She hasn't done West Norwood yet, but she's done Highgate Cemetery and she's done Brompton Cemetery, and as you would expect, it's something that we, the Anglian Flaneurs, would like to film in the future. On my wife's insistence, we're now working our way towards the High Street in Southwold, but we're going to see somewhere really special just before we start looking at shops. This wonderful sculpture that you'll see soon is really tremendous. It's not the place I was talking about, but I passed it en route and I wanted to film it. I really like it. It might not, again, be everyone's cup of tea, but I like it. Now this place that we see before us is really special. Again, I'm struggling a little bit with my language and the use of suitable adjectives, but I think it's a great place. The Electric Picture Palace is a 70-seat cinema and was designed by John Bennett and is run by the Southwold Film Society, which is a charitable trust. Now here you will see usherates, a front of house manager in a DJ and a tiny Wurlitzer organ rising up mysteriously during the interval, and I believe the national anthem is played at the end of the film. The cinema here was created in 2002 and I believe was a former stable and cart shed, and was opened by the great Michael Palin, who I will talk about later. There was an Electric Picture Palace in Southwold somewhere, I don't know exactly where, that was built in 1912, but at the present venue they run 4 film sessions a year, 3 or 10 weeks following the school terms, with screenings on Friday and Saturday evenings. So please come along, you will not be disappointed. We're now walking down Southwold High Street, enjoying its genteel delights. Many would accuse it of extreme gentrification. There's a fair number of cake shops, coffee shops and delis. And with these places, there's usually a number of high-end clothes shops where you need a small mortgage to buy an article of clothing. But please don't let my cynicism distract from what is a wonderful high street. We will shortly come into interview of Cecil, which happens to be one of my wife's favourite shops. On the right hand side you will see a wonderful place to buy a gelato or ice cream. I seriously recommend it. It's very popular, but again it's well worth a visit. And I mustn't forget the donuts and hot chocolate as well. On the left hand side, coming up, we will see the Lord Nelson pub, and it's a place I've been in a few times. I don't regularly go in there, I prefer the Salt Bay Inn, but I believe it is Graham Gooch's favourite drinking establishment in Southwold. Graham Gooch, England cricket captain and Essex cricket captain, and legend, I might add. I apologise, that's not exactly a world-shattering fact, but to be honest with you, it's all I know about the Lord Nelson, so apologies there. The pub does have a really good interior, and as I said, I've been there several times, not as often as I've been to the South Bay, but sadly they don't serve food there anymore. We're passing in front of the Sailors' Reading Room, and this is a Grade 2 listed building and was built in 1864 as a place for fishermen and mariners to read as an alternative to drinking in pubs, and also encouraging the pursuit of Christian ideals. The room itself has a number of historic displays of model boats and other maritime objects. We're now passing the famous Susie's. It's a cafe on the front here, and it is a great resting place and refreshment place for cyclists and walkers. And Phil and I, my good friend Phil Kiley, we've done many a cycle ride up to Southwold, and we've often enjoyed something to eat here. But that was some years ago. Phil is still a very keen and able cyclist. I no longer. All I can do these days is just plod very slowly up and down a swimming pool or in the sea. I did say I would mention Michael Palin's East of Ipswich, which came out in February 1987. It was written by Michael, and I believe was based on his boyhood holidays of touring and holidaying on the East Coast, around Aldborough, around Southwold and other places. And the play is about a 17-year-old boy called Richard, who is on holiday with his parents when he'd rather be somewhere else. And it's really about British holidays in the 50s with the traditional English boarding house run by a very formidable lady, where meals are served on a very strict schedule and are very simple, rather different than holidays that we've been used to in recent years. And it's really about his exploits and how he really basically tries to get a girlfriend. The play explores the mishaps and tensions of someone's first relationship. The play ends with the families having to end the holiday and go home with the young fella in disgrace. The backdrop and music was provided by the Salt Bay Jazz Band and the Southwold and Wakeman Corps of Drums. We're now making our way back to the Salt Bay for a well-earned and well-deserved drink. Well, it's not really well-earned or deserved, but we're going to go there anyway, and I hope you've enjoyed this trip round Southwold. And that's it from the Anglian Flaneurs. Goodbye from us, and our next vlog will be from the River Orr near Orford Quay. Also, finally, I hope you enjoy these magnificent cottages and the wonderful and magnificent hollyhocks.